Okay, slideshow 1, 2, 4. Slideshow 4. Next picture is the same picture, but the camera moved. Here's our sea of uprights on our construction stairs. And this was taken the same day. Ruhel doesn't just live there. This is only 5 minutes later, so he's still working right there. He mixed all the render for everybody. For the first 2 months, he pretty much sifted all the sand outside and mixed the render. He's up in age. He's 60-some years old. We just thought after a while that when there was a break and we started back up, we were concerned about him having a heart attack or something. And he's really, at his age and as thin as he is, trying to carry bags of rock upstairs. That's just not something to do. So we got him back when we did the render. But there was a break in his employment for the rest of one build season until we got into rendering, because we don't want to hurt anybody. Didn't come halfway around the world to hurt somebody. And I feel bad about it, but he's like he tends this rice farm, so he has another income. This is extra income for him. So if that's the only income he had, we'd probably left it up to him whether he wanted to work or not. Yeah, if you look in here, there's a top piece, and it's got 1, 2, 3, 4 uprights and a diagonal brace. That's what constitutes a form down there. And all these braces running across here were put there because it would have been shackly without them. Okay. We're getting into plumbing chases. This is a 3-inch pipe and a 4-inch pipe. Underneath of this concrete, there's a gray water line and a black water line. Black water's out of your toilet and gray water's out of your showers and your sinks. It's headed for the septic tank. Just to bring in more air and more water to work the septic tank, we're going to dump the gray water into the septic tank because our septic tank is going to be big enough that I'm not sure how many people could live in this house. 20. You know, there's plenty of bedrooms. There's 5 main bedrooms and non-auxiliary bedrooms. So there's plenty of room. But if you had a lot of people, you might want to turn this gray water straight down the hill, because there's nothing wrong running soapy water onto the garden. These pipes in the ground down here, they were set with a surveyor's transit. Not those laser level things. It was done with the optical transit. It's accurate to within half a millimeter and 100 feet. A laser transit, it's 18 millimeters in 100 feet. I don't know what that means to anybody, but I wouldn't pour a complex industrial foundation with a laser level, because all the equipment would be off level. You'd fight it for the whole construction with shims under your lag pads and stuff like that. Who wants to do that? And it would look bad, make us look bad when we were done putting it up. So I had one guy had to jackhammer out a floor and replace it, but him and the customer agreed on taking the center out of the floor. I wanted him to take it all up. There's 2 giant beams that are 2 feet high and 8 inches wide that are the foundation of the machine, but they're dependent on that concrete. The concrete is a structural part of the machine. And taking the center out disconnected the 2 sides from the center, from each other. But the customer's all right with it, and it's still standing there running every day. But that's not the way I designed it. Oh, this sea of rebars is what we thought we would need to put this circular staircase in. Those all get turned into that central beam. It's sort of like they did at Villa Feliz, James Sanders' house. He's got a lot of videos, very good videos, detailed from day one to the end. You can, this bump out here in the floor and then a second bump out. The second bump out is to cover this sort of home office place that she's laid off, put her name on it anyway. I'll put an extra window in that if you're going to call it an office. One window was not enough in the room for an office. You know, I don't want all lighting come from one direction. But this bump out here is because the stairs end up coming out here. You can see if you carried that line around, you'd only have about 30 inches, less than a meter, from the top step until to the handrail. Too tight, just too tight. So I had another 4 feet. I just changed the forms when we were pouring that floor up there. And this is our experienced lumber pile. I think it's experienced lumber because it's got some rolled up plastic being saved here. There are good lumber in there, but I'm sure she had them sort that. And they probably have cleaned up this entire floor and threw it all in a heap. Actually, I think it came from up above. I think it come up there and threw it down here, and then threw it in a heap. So they're gonna go through that and save the usable pieces, and the rest of it is cooking wood for people across the street that live over there. This is showing what it looks with render and without render on the going around a corner. These 2-inch welded wire mesh, they come here and then they get bent over about 4 inches. One side it just ends at the corner and the other end gets bent over and stuck into the next thing. What you want to do is you want to lap at least 2 full windows and maybe a half with the part that you're lapping over, like for a seam allowance maybe. This is showing a kink up here, but it's not a kink. That's the edge of the picture. But it looks like it had a really serious kink. Another thing of the same, more. This is from the other direction, looking at the same thing. 2, 3, 5, 6, 8, 9, 11, 14 rebars for one beam. That's as many rebars as we put in a 14 by 24 main beam. These beams are poured as a wall. All this is one pour, you know, just shaped to look like a wall with beams and columns on it. But the beams up here have the same rebar in them. If I'd have stopped pouring the form at that height and poured the beam as a separate pour, the rebar would have been right for that. The wall rebar goes on up right through the beam, just like it would, like the wall was that tall. But then this other thing is fit around it, but it's got that many long bars, and then it's got all the stirrups in it. The wall wouldn't have stirrups. There's nothing but a stirrup around. And this is another view of this beam. It sits on 2 points, and if I'd have continued them, only half the width of the beam down the bottom would be available to hold up this weight. But the way I got it here, they can continue past the wall on the other side. So of the weight above it, you got 2 points there on a beam that's running front and back, and it's also got a poured concrete wall underneath of it. Then the next section going across there and one over here going there, those are carried farther out on the beam. So half the load is here within about 4 feet of the post, and half the load is here, and that's about 7 feet to a post. So that was a structural consideration. Well, we love that picture. Oh, this is the Isawa. She's showing you how she adjusts this thing. This screw goes down and it moves a roller here. And there's 2 more rollers on the bottom. So it's a 3-roller thing. And by the amount you press down with this press roller, that determines how much a curve you put in. Flat bar, like we did the tops of these door frames and the round window frames, ran them on this. This is a Harbor Freight $78 pipe roller for conduit pipe. It's plenty strong enough for what we're doing. I was a little concerned about it. It had ball bearings and 3/4-inch axles in it. But at the time I was intending to roll rebar. I thought the house might be round. But it turned out it was easier to make the forms all square. So anyway, the way we work this is how many flats you turn that bolt in. Because To start with, we were putting the bar under it and then cranking the top roller down and then pushing it through and pulling out from the other end. And then it dawned on us, all we had to do was take a adjustable wrench and bend just the very end of it, so that when we shove it in here, it would pop up over that second roller. So we never had to adjust that. We'd make 100 pieces. They'd be exactly the same. Once you get you roll one and you find out what the error is. You toss that piece aside. You adjust this by like 2 flats, and you roll another one, and you see where you are. Throw that piece to the side. And you do that, it's taken sometimes as many as 7 pieces to get this thing exactly set. Exactly. And we run 100 pieces. And then we take these ones that have a curve in them. This thing over here is what they bend all this bar for to make these pictures. That's the handle that bends it. It's got a 2.5 inch cam rollers with inch stub shafts. One's into this, well, they're both into this handle. He's just dropping it in right now. It'll go down even with the table. There's pipes on the table. One roller fits in that, and the other one rolls around the thing you're bending. You can, the way these pipes are on there, the way we chose to do it, there's only the thickness of flat bar between the pipes when they pass each other. So you can put a seriously good kink on them. And then sometimes we just take and just bang the handle back and forth and push it through slow, and we make gradual curves and change direction curves, like go clockwise to a curve to a counterclockwise curve. This is Boy. He's been with us since the columns. He's been here since the entire project. His brother is the foreman, and I believe he started just about the same time. And this is Benji. He lives at the Shoreline across the road. Habitat for Humanity. Jimmy Carter put it up. He speaks English with a really heavy accent. We managed to communicate. Me and Boy, we haven't got a word in common other than salamat. That's it. Anyway, he's a go-to guy. We're paying him to water plants, and him as a security person during the lockdown. They get paid every day, whether they have anything to do or not. We're not allowed to do any construction work. It's forbidden. So right now they do clean up, and they feed the turkeys, and they water plants. And we have a bakery over there. The bakery is a food exemption. So they can bake bread and cakes and stuff. That's Boyette's business, the bakery business. I'm not sure if he runs it every day. He does clean up over at the house and chips stuff off the floor and shovels it up and throws it outside and looks around, make sure there's nothing wandering off. But we can't get any bags of cement or render. We can't get rebar. Can't get sand or gravel. Can't get skim coat. So we're pretty much stuck because they've closed down all the places that manufacture the materials. Now, other people who can get materials are still doing construction. I don't want to be them if they get caught. They don't fool around over here. When they make a law, they haven't got anybody to enforce them. But when they do enforce one, they come down on you with a ton of bricks. You really don't want to get tied up in court cases over here. Oh, this bicycle wheel is because I lost the wheel that came with it. It is somewhere in the Philippines, but I don't know where. Because we went back, and it wasn't at the house when we went back for we take a vacation in the U.S. Oh, what I was saying here. Once we make this thing and know how many flats it is, every turn on it is 6 flats. It's a 6-sided bolt. So it's 6, 12, 18, 24, plus 2 flats. So if it's 26, it's 4 complete turns and plus 2. And the reason that is handy to know is because written all over the sides of this form is all the different curves we make. If you know you're making a tighter radius than one you've made before, you go over and look and see how many turns and flats were on that one. And for your first attempt, you're going to add a couple flats to that. You're going to run the wheel down farther to make a sharper turn, or less than that for a wider turn. And save you screwing up one piece. But after we bend them, they don't bend the same amount with the same setting on the machine. So what we do is we run them through this over here and turn them back into straight flat bar and use them for straight. There's a lot of places you use straight pieces of flat bar, so we didn't even try to economize on bending the round windows. There's 10, 12 round windows on the first floor that are like 5.5 feet. And there's 11 round windows up here that are 37 inches. Not quite a meter, just about a meter. So those are all round, and the tops of the doors are round. You know, there's things that are round. And there's two sizes of doors. We call this big door. And there's small door, which is 6 inches narrower. The only place that they're in the same wall is between the living room and the kitchen. We put in both our door frames and big window. And they gave us 3 big holes in that to let light in and out of the kitchen and air circulation. And if somebody was doing something in the kitchen and somebody's in the living room visiting, you can talk back and forth, you know. So it's a sort of a communication thing, so you're not ignoring your company. If they don't want to sit at the island in the kitchen, or if there's too many of them to sit in there, or it's too damn hot because you're cooking, you have those openings. Plus, it's cheaper to build a wall with holes in it because we reuse all these forms. This form here was used 10 times on this floor, 11 times on this floor, and 13 times or 14 times on the floor down below. And the narrow door was used 11 times on the first floor, the living quarters floor. And then flat forms, we used those 36 times. Poured 36 pours on the same form. So the cost per pour of a form is not that awful high. And like I say, I got a video on comparison the cost of hollow block with poured concrete. The poured concrete come out cheaper. And it was done with a sample wall. That was a sample of a hollow block wall. So the poured concrete wall was made as thick as the hollow block wall with render. In actuality, you would pour it about 2 inches thinner than that. So the price comparison is heavily slanted towards hollow blocks, but it still was more expensive. If you poured a 5-inch wall out of poured concrete, you know, you'd save a third. It's a lot. This is what you get with poured concrete. These are the holes from the plastic pipe, these little dots all over everything. There's no render or skim coat or anything. That's just the bare concrete. That's what it looks like when you pull the forms off. You could live in this without rendering it. Or you can skim coat it. You can go straight to skim coat. We've been on one picture forever. That's skim coat. I can't read the name. DECAGON. I don't know. We got this at City Light. There's a few things we can't get from Patlin, and City Light is our supplier for those things. And we choose to buy the gravel from another guy just to keep him some work. He gets a commission because everything else goes through Patlin, all the cement and stuff. But this first bunch of skim coat came from City Light, and we took a bag to Patlin because they charge us 5,000 pesos and 10,000 pesos delivery from City Light, and there's no charge from delivery from Patlin, which is 3 kilometers from us instead of 40. So we buy some things at City Light. Hard to get things we want in a hurry, and don't want to go clear to Wilcon Depot or Home Handyman or All Home, 24-hour store, All Home. which is handy if we ever wanted something in the middle of the night, I guess. I'm not sure the hardware's open that late. I know the groceries is 24-hour. Anyway, that was skim coat. This is a piece of flat bar marked off for the cuts. That's just child's chalk like you use on a chalkboard. They take a piece of braided nylon rope, like 3/16 rope, and they measure how long the pieces are by laying that out on the pattern back there. And then they mark it on this. Then one guy holds the end up, and the other guy just chop, 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 chop with a shear. And they make like 100 pieces at a time. And these all have numbers. You can't see the numbers because they're on there with like gold or silver paint marker. And it's like a Sharpie pen. Sometimes they use a Sharpie, the narrow Sharpie. And that lets them know where it goes on the thing when they're putting it back together. They bend it, they put it on top of the pattern, they put a nail on both ends on one side and one in the middle on the other side, and that holds it until they get around to welding it. Yeah. Not sure what all the rebar is doing in there. Seahorses, nautilus shell. Lotus flowers. Orchid, that's an orchid. Leaves, more leaves. Some of these leaves are almost to scale, and some of them, the leaves are actually bigger than we used them as. There's one leaf we use on for a door that's in nature, it's over 11 feet tall. They make whole roofs for emergency shelters out of them in Malaysia or someplace. That's she's still in the same room, same seahorses. That's an orchid. I know this is an orchid. That may be a lotus. And this is me jumping up and down with the camera while I'm pushing the button. This vise is made out of a weldment of welded steel. And they grind all the welds. It looks like a casting. The only thing I don't like about it is the fact it uses a bolt thread for the ram instead of Acme thread. But the vise has never been able to damage it and even mark it up. We beat on it and we hammer on it and we put metal in it and bend it. We hold things to saw. It's a wonderful piece. That came from City Light. Because they had a whole pile of them on the floor one day we were there. And I bought a bigger rebar shear from them the same day. And I also bought a different rebar shear from the place that we buy our welding machines from. I walked in there and saw it, and I'd already priced it at City Light and told them I'd be back at 4 o'clock because they close at 5. So I saw this other one and I kind of liked it. And I said, well, I have two the same. My first one wasn't built heavy enough, so we got it in the States. So I bought the one at the welding place, and when I came back by the City Light, I had them put theirs right beside it. So we have a spare rebar shear, but only one vise. I may get a bigger vise. I don't know why you'd buy a vise bigger than 6 inches, other than the fact they make them. What she's holding is a barracuda. They're all mouth. If you don't eat the head of a fish, you know you're carrying a barracuda home. It's half head. This is the round hoops that we rolled that were the wrong radius for a door. And there's inner and outer hoops for the same narrow door. So 2, 4, 6 pieces there. There's probably 3 errors for each door. And we'll take this and put this between our cam rollers over there and just work it back straight. Because once you bend metal, it gets a smaller grain on it. Cold worked, it won't bend the same even if you have the setting the same on the machine. So we just turn them back into straight stuff and just kept making them. Once we get the machine right, we make them all we need for the whole job. Plus, we wrote down on the work table what the number of flats is to turn the bolt down to. This is a sea turtle. Pile of orchids, probably more orchids. Lobster, some kind of a flower. Oh, this is not a Philippine native. This is a flamenco. They're pink. You see them all over Florida sitting on bridges lined up. They got real long legs. They fly and skim and catch things with their legs dangling out behind them. They fly along right over the surface and scoop things up. And they also walk in shallow water to feed. But I just like to have flamencos, and we have a door with flamencos. We also have seagulls, which are not in our area in the Philippines. If you can eat it, it gets ate. There's no wildlife. It's all gone. If you can't domesticate it and grow it in the yard, it won't survive here. Anyway, there's seagulls. That's the slot-like window things up in the spider beam. And we've not put a frame around any of those yet. We ran out of steel. Kobe Well. Highly recommended welding rods. Best I've ever had. I don't weld 6013s. And I never weld 6011s. But I have used 6013. 6011 starts too many fires. It's got a paper coating on it, and it just throws sparks everywhere and starts fires. 6013 has got a ground clay coating on it. I don't know if you can read this or see it anyplace else on the package. These are what's called smokeless rods. They weld really well. They run great, but they don't smoke. You're not sitting there with you having to clean smoke off your weld lens all the time and breathe all that. That might be me. I gave a bunch of shoes to the guys that work here. It could have been anybody, but I kind of think those are me. That's before my pants fell all together to pieces. But Kobe Well, they also make 7018 rods, which we use. I've not seen stainless rods. I buy these at All Home because they're half the price of any place else. They leave a beautiful weld. Just an absolutely slick, what do you call a row of dimes, like when you're TIG welding. That's the kind of weld you get with these things trying to weld mild steel. I don't know if we have any. If I get over there sometime, I'll take a picture of finished welding to show you how nice these things look when they're on there. They burn in good. They don't smoke. They're 6013. They got the ground clay coating on them, and they're about half the price that they charge at every place else. You can buy them in these 2.5 kilo boxes. Or you can buy a 10 kilo case. That's 4 of these things side by side in a cardboard box. The price per kilo of the welding rods is the same. They just open up the case and put these things on display as individual boxes. So we generally buy them in the cardboard. It's easier to load it on the tricycle. We buy like 4 to 6 boxes at a time. This is a Mitsu welder. It's a capacitor inverter welder. We've been using it for a couple of years now. We bought it to tack with. That's what it's recommended for. But we've been welding with it too. I have Komatsu plug-in-the-wall welders and a copy, which is called Apollo. I got one for each of the 2 guys and gave them to them. I gave this one to Boy. When we get done, if I need a welder, I'll buy me a welder. But when they get done making windows over there, I gave them a rebar cutter and a welder and bending stuff, whatever it takes to make that artwork rebars. If they want to do metal work for a living after this house is done, they won't have to buy any tools. And I told them they could use one of the rooms in the house until they get a place. So they may do that or may not. And when they get done, it's theirs. They want to sell the tools, they can sell them. And there's an electric drill and stuff, I never had one of these when I was working construction. I was the crew leader, I guess you call it. I got 28 guys, and all I got to do is keep them all busy. and keep them doing something productive and not going the wrong direction. The word is tangent. No matter what you do, they go off in some other direction, and you have to camp on them. But when I was wanting to get away from them, I pick up a 9-inch grinder and I grind metal. Throw sparks everywhere. They won't walk up on me, and I just pretend I don't see them and keep on grinding. Other than that, you'd go insane. You can't deal with them some days. Some days it's just more than a human being can stand. 28 people. You have to order what they have for lunch. They can't pick out their own lunch order. I don't care if you're at McDonald's. They can't figure out what to order off of McDonald's menu for lunch. And I had another guy that I worked with. He says, just order the first thing at the top of the list. And they said, well, he says, look, it's going to turn into poo in 3 hours. What do you care what it is when it goes in? Just order anything. And they would order chicken gizzards or chicken livers. And then they get sick right after lunch and want me to pay them for the rest of the day. I said, what were you thinking? You ate chicken guts. I haven't got any pity for you. You go sit in the truck, you're off the clock, and no, I can't spare anybody, take you to the hotel. You got to wait till quitting time, or until we send somebody to town for parts or a hardware store or something, and they're going that way and it's not far out, and then we'll take you to the motel. And if you eat chicken guts tomorrow, don't come back after lunch. Just stay at the hotel. Anyway, these are what they call auto darkening welding helmets. I bought 6 of them. Benji and Boy. This is the American Eagle one, I think. Or maybe this one is. There's 2. They're both similar. But I bought them with different patterns on them. And I gave one to the guy at the machine shop who was looking through a thing he held in his hand with a hole drilled through it. And the other thing he had was a pair of sunglasses, not even shade 5. I don't know about that. This is our metal bender. This is what makes all the crazy shapes that like butterflies and stuff. They're inside of these columns. Our rebar is not rectangles and squares. The rebar wraps around every bar in the column. Same thing with the well, not all the beams, most of the beams, but all the columns. So it's a 3-piece stirrup because it has to wrap around all the intermediate rods and out into the corners, because there's recesses in these columns that the walls plug into. It's like a puzzle. So you had to have rebars near all those edges, all those recesses, and they had to wrap stirrups around that. There's a video on it. Just look there. He loves red.